The On the Mark podcast is brought to you in part by Synovus. Synovus, the bank of here. Here should be the most important place to your bank because here is where you are. Synovus, the bank of here.
Welcome to On the Mark, a PGA Tour podcast. Here's your host, someone who walks inside the ropes but thinks outside the box, Mark Immelman.
How's it? What an exhilarating finish to the 2020 Wyndham Championship. Of course, I am Mark Immelman. I'm in my hotel room. Just got done with the CBS First Cut recap podcast. Go and search for that. Always good fun with the First Cut guys. And I'm just catching up with you. Our global tribe, thanks for supporting us. Hope you're all well. Hope you're all healthy. Hope that your golf game is coming along. Please let us know if things are going well, please. The podcast Twitter handle is at On The Mark Radio. Me personally, I am at Mark_Immelman on Twitter and on Instagram. Give me a follow there and interact with me. Please interact with us and subscribe to the podcast and tell your friends. We just love our tribe to grow, and we love to bring great minds to everybody in an effort to help you to better understanding and better golf. Anyways, golf is such a great game. The Wyndham Championship, what a story. Jim Herman came in here, not very much form, a whole bunch of miscuts, played badly in the PGA last week. All of a sudden, finds a little something, starts making a few putts, and wins the tournament. Kudos to Billy Horschel, whose group I was covering in the final round for CBS. Billy is playing great and just came up a buck shy. But Jim Herman, I just want to share with you, not the direct quote, but something he said to Amanda Balionis after the victory. And he said, look, in golf, anything is possible. You just got to keep a good attitude and make putts. I'll say it again. In golf, anything is possible. You've just got to keep a good attitude and make putts. Now, in a nutshell, that's kind of the recipe for it all. It's likely to change at any time. And I want to, if you're in a slump right now, I want to embolden you to say, hey, it just was going to take one shot, one smart decision, one putt that rims in, anything that can turn your tide. But don't belabor the poor play. Keep a good attitude and focus on your putting. You see, a lot of people, when things start going a little awry, they start focusing on their ball striking. I've watched lots of golfers strike it great and not make the score because they don't convert. Golf is a game of recovery. It's a game of conversion. Yes, if you drive the ball well, you will have the leg up in competition. But in the final analysis, it's about putting a score on a scorecard. So please do remember that quote from Jim Herman. There's living proof that it can turn at any time. Now, pivoting back to this podcast, you know me if you've listened for a long time. I'm a firm believer in productive, purpose-filled practice, not just bashing balls blindly, thoughtlessly, aimlessly. And so practice this way means you have a plan, you have a goal to achieve, and you do drills. If you're trying to learn a new motor pattern, a drill is a great way to help you to get there quicker and to help you to ensure that you do the right thing. And then also to help to galvanize the feel of what's necessary. Because remember, there's a big difference between feel and real. And if you feel like you're doing something, you're probably not doing it as much as what you think. And so drills are a great way of helping you to the place where you feel, okay, this is what it's going to feel like. Because that's what you want to get to in practice. You want to make it count. You're going to want to make it functional and purpose-driven. So using drills is a great way to ensure all of those. And Debbie Doniger, great golf instructor, has got some sensational drills on tap for you. This segment of the On The Mark podcast, it's brought to you by Synovus. Synovus, the bank of here. She's been on our podcast one time before, but it's been a while. Welcome back, Debbie Doniger. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, man. I've been watching what you've been up to from afar. You're my favorite radio personality. and some of the golf stuff you've been putting out online has been sensational. So I want to get there quickly, but for the folks who didn't listen to the first podcast or who've got their heads stuck under a rock, please tell us a little bit about you.
I've been in golf my entire life, basically. I started at 7 years old. Mm-hmm. Many people don't know this about me, but Shirley Spork, who was the founder of the LPGA, was my initial teacher. Uh-huh. And fell in love with the game. And 12 years old, I moved on to Jim McLean, who was my teacher through college, through professional golf, through junior golf. And then I started working for him, and I think I was with him for about 15, 16 years, 17 years. And then the abridged version is I branched off. I've been in New York for about 20 years. I grew up in Connecticut, and branched off meaning that there's no one better than Jim, and his heart is always with me. Obviously, you know the relationships you have with your teachers and mentors, but Mike Adams, Randy Smith, Chuck Cook, Bill Harmon, Butch Harmon, a bunch of
You're name dropping
trainers,
now.
No, I know, because it's really important, because I can't get to what you see online without all these people. And for me, and I think you would agree, I know your relationship with Gary Player or your first teacher. If we don't mention the people that came before us, I think with social media, you get drowned out in what might be in or hip. And it drives me crazy, because it's these individuals that paved the way for me in particular.
That's why I love you. Folks, I got to tell you, dinners with Debbie are a thing. We should make this a segment, because if you get her on her soapbox, I love the way you take stands.
I know.
And you know what, you're so right that nowadays the fad thing in golf, it's a little dangerous, don't you think?
I think it's dangerous in a way that many of my students come to me and look, a lot of the online content is excellent. There's no question. And a lot of these, I would say, younger teachers also are putting out solid information. It's good information. Yeah. But for me to learn, because I've been teaching now for 25 plus years, and to spend time with the gentleman that I just mentioned, is paramount, because they have 30 years experience. They teach major championship winners or have taught. Their junior roster, Randy Smith, Mark, come on. Scotty Scheffler almost just won. Yeah. He's, I think, has more junior golfers than any other teacher on tour. So if you want to take me to Texas, I'm going to go see Randy Smith and spend time with him. So for me, it's just me personally. That's what I need to do to get better. So a lot of the stuff that you see it's me spending time with the best of the best, and I'm happy to call them friends, and thank God for the Leds and the Jims and the, Harmons.
Yeah, well, I was lucky too. David was a huge mentor of mine, David Ledbetter, that is, and you preaching to the choir, your sister. Hey, quick thing, you mustn't date yourself like you are. Okay.
I know. Thank you.
I'm clinging on to 29 personally. Quickly, before we dive into this, you talked about when you got into golf and age 12 and such. Certain people might hear that, or maybe even parents, and you talked about junior golfers, and they're like, oh my goodness, I should have had my kid in golf when they were 4 or 5 or whatever. Quickly, your thoughts on that.
I get it all the time, Mark. I just saw a 12-year-old golfer who's actually very good playing nationally yesterday. I'm not his main teacher, but wanted a second pair of eyes. Junior golf is booming. It's competitive. And what I find a lot of times is the parents come to me too late. The kid, I believe, like what Ben Shear says, you can specialize but not emphasize in the beginning. But I'll tell you what, there's a line with parents to push and to pull away. And with my kids, they don't play golf as their main sport. They have another main sport, and they're both ranked nationally. And there is a fine line, but I feel that more parents, if they just cross the line of pushing a little earlier, as long as the kids are in love with golf, because it is a brutal game emotionally. Yeah. And if you can't ride those lows as a kid, you're going to get out of the game. So you have to instill the passion, which for some reason I had at 12. and just loved it. And I credit that to, well, there is a reason. I credit that to Shirley Spork. I credit it to Jim McLean and my friends in junior golf. But it is a lonely game at times, and emotionally taxing. So instill the love, push, find an excellent teacher with a great record who can start to build a team around that kid. Because I think what you and I see on tour now is the result of that. Better technology, better teaching, better trainers so that people don't get injured and are strong. I mean, to play college golf, for a boy, I talk to D1 coaches all the time, and you better hit it far. And I'm talking 290, bare minimum.
Hey, but even
for the schools in the north.
Yeah, everyone runs a different kind of a race, though, so it's not like you have to. I think people look at the elite golfers, the youngsters, and they're like, well, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. But the truth of it is, you got to run your race, right?
Of course, everybody's journey is different, and you could peak at different times. But I think that if you don't have the team around you with, quote unquote, those speed windows, when you're working out, when's rest and recovery, what tournaments are you playing, when are you playing them, how many holes are you playing today? I had a kid yesterday who was trying to play D3 golf, for example, like to your point. Okay. She came to me late, doesn't shoot in the low 70s, but can absolutely play D3. But I need her to play 54 holes a day as part of her game plan. That's not every day. But that's different than you and I, who are playing at 12 years old, getting all that golf experience in super, super early.
Yeah.
And so the golf IQ isn't quite there. So she needs more playing. But it's just little things like that. But there are so many great teachers and coaches around the country that if a parent is listening right now, you can find these individuals and they will guide you and your child to being the best that they can be, like you said, whatever that is. That may just be playing golf casually, but a good golf.
Fantastic. Hey, golf IQ, I love that, but that's a different subject for a different time. I want to talk some of these drills. I'm a big one for drills because I feel like it makes learning purposeful and purpose-driven, and you've been putting out some good ones online. So I asked you to share some of these drills that folks can go and incorporate and practice. This is for better ball striking, so let's kick it off.
Which one did you like? The one under the lead foot?
Yeah, they were all good, girl. Start somewhere.
Yeah, that was a good one. So they're all on golf.com, Golf Magazine. Thankfully, a top 100 teacher. So they've given me a lot of room to post a lot of content, which is awesome. And we're going to do a women's thing, too, if there are any women listeners. But one drill is you stand on your, let's just say a gap wedge or a pitching wedge, because the shaft is shorter, under your lead foot. Okay. So if you're a right-handed golfer, under your left foot, and you angle the shaft in a way that if you are a slicer of the golf ball, or you hit two down and left, you angle the shaft in a way and it's pointing up to the sky where on your downswing, you should not hit the shaft. And therefore, your swing direction will be more out to the right. And I think it also enables the golfer, I know, stabilize the lead side. So a lot of slicers or a lot of poor ball striking, the footwork is also not terrific. So this does stabilize that lead side. You can push down on the club, which shifts the pressure forward. And then swing your arms and hands more out to the right. And then you've got a rightward swing direction. But you could do this on the range. You don't need a teacher with you.
Awesome. Hey, so just to sort of clarify this, do you have a name for this exercise? Or is this shaft club under left foot?
Yeah, you can go to golf_.com and see me do it. It got a lot of hits, a lot of views. So, and it's a drill that I've seen, but not online, not and social media too much.
Well, it's easy to do, and I love drills where you can hit golf balls at the same time and exercises like that. So you're setting up parallel to your target line. You've got the club under your foot, but it's pointing at an angle off to the right-hand side for the right-handed golfer. Here's my question.
Yeah.
For someone who swings wickedly across the thing, you wouldn't recommend hitting golf balls to start. This is just practice swings initially, right? I don't want to hurt people.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there was one of the comments that said, should I be doing this with a driver? And if I get questions like that, I do think those are more beginner golfers. And so, yes, the answer is do not hit a golf ball if you're going to ruin your club. So,
and yourself.
Yes, tee it up. Yeah, and it's going to hurt. And do it in slow motion, but you'll see me doing it on mine, and then it'll be obvious. And it's just a really good feel to, like you said, to promote a rightward swing direction versus down and left and across and
which most
leading
folks
to poor ball.
Which most folks listening to this probably could use a bit more of. Okay, that's a wonderful way to kick it off. How about a second drill?
A second drill, I think that many people, and obviously you and I are on the same page with a lot of instruction, even though we don't talk about it ad nauseum like my other friends, but arm and hand speed is a big deal to me with, I think, the listeners of your podcast. And many times I feel that the arms and hands are just too slow. The faster your arms and hands swing, if your grip's on there properly and the club face is in a proper position for you as a golfer, the better your body will move and rotate through the swing. So a lot of times I get the upper body is too fast. This goes in tandem with the drill I just gave you. Yeah, of course. Upper body swings too fast. The club face is open. They spin out. So it's easier for the average golfer, I think, to think about their arms and hands. And that's one thing McLean did so well with all of us is you could break your groups up into beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So this would be the more beginner, intermediate. How good are you with your arms and hands? And you get your feet pretty close together, about a club, just put a club head between your feet, tee up the balls and use your 7-iron, and you're going to swing your arms and hands. The ball should go left. If you do this, because you're swinging your arms and hands past your body. The faster you swing your arms and hands, that's the next level, then your body should start to respond and rotate through the shot on its own. It follows the arms and hands, and that will straighten out your ball flight. If also there's another addendum to this drill. If you hang back as well or also spin out, you can also do the same drill with the left foot in front of the right foot, stand on your right toe, and so your left leg becomes an anchor for this same arms and hands speed.
You know what?
And so there are variations to this drill.
The left foot forward version, the left foot forward version, I love. And I want to camp here for just a minute. You talk about online instruction. There is a proliferation right now of rotation, strong club face rotation. But there's this delicate dance between, rotation and keeping the club appropriated. And this exercise you're sharing, to me, you talk about intermediate and varying levels. Even good golfers can do this, feet together, and just sequence up their golf swing a bit more and get the rotation appropriate for where the face is.
Yeah, I think that you and I, if we can keep it simple for any level of golfer, I have a lot of, even me, I don't play that much anymore, and my arm and hand speed is slow. So I will absolutely warm up with this. And like to your point with the left foot in front, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's a really good feel that when you go up to the top and you're going to swing your arms and hands fast, you can add a little flex into that lead knee, that left knee, and then push up out of the ground while you're swinging your arms and hands. And that also is a very powerful feel. So there, like you and I said, variation to the online content and rotation. Again, I think there's so much great content out there, 100%. But if the listeners can't rotate, if they're inflexible, if they're sitting at a desk all day, this online content may not be right for you. You have to really, in my opinion, and I know you would agree with me, just get a simple evaluation so you know what your body can and can't do, because that will hurt your back, and you have to be able to properly move in the golf swing to to create sort of that rotation that you see online with the better players. I think that tour players and pictures in time are just pictures in time.
Hey, we've had Dr. Mark Bull on this podcast, and he's a biomechanist, brilliant, and they've done studies that have proved that your body responds to what your arms and hands do. That's a big one, and it doesn't lead as much as what people think. And then also, to me, just an awareness of where the club head is. And if you're doing your drill, you'll get a sense for the weight of the thing. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's the tip of my spear. That's what I hit the golf ball with.
Yes, and also the club head is an external, it's off the shaft. So there have also been some studies. I'm not, it's not for everyone, but an external feel, the club head, sometimes resonates with people better than your hip, a body part. Now, also you could think of the grip too. How fast can you move the handle? How fast can you move, the grip end of the club? It's the same thing as the club head, but at least it's external and it's off your body. And in theory, that's an easier way for people to swing and think about versus a body part.
Beautiful. Well, we've got two drills here. The one's about swing direction. The other one's sort of club head speed and club face appropriation. What's number 3?
So in number 3, I was thinking what would be something that I don't see much of online, although I do with my peers, would be get into a bunker. Okay. Draw a line in between your feet. And I'm a big proponent of working on impact.
I love this.
So this is an impact drill. I know you would love this. We love this drill. So you take it halfway back and you are going to try and smash the sand with the golf club at the line or in front of the line. Let's do it 10 times. If you're a beginner golfer, maybe we just do it 2 out of 10 times, 3 out of 10 times. But your goal would be 8 out of 10 times, and you're just going halfway through. Or even short. It depends, if we want to really work on what the hands and shaft are doing at impact. I like honing in on this part of the swing. We have the sand, which gives us a constraint. And it's really obvious how the hands and arms should work as well as your body when you get into a bunker, and you can feel the resistance of the sand and the energy the club head can get into the sand.
And also, too, you talk about constraints, but you get visuals, too, because, if you early extending and releasing and that club's landing before your line, then you got to keep working until you can get it to land on the line, and vice versa. If it's chopping hard and on the front side of the thing, you'll have to be more balanced with your body's approach and where your arm swing's coming from.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're right. Visually, it's good. It feels different. We can hone in on it. It's a small swing. It's a short swing. It's a slower swing. So you can actually, think a little bit. It's a version of if you see teachers draw a spray paint line in the fairway and you put tees on it and you're just trying to clip the tees or hit the ground after the ball. But it's also, here's another variation of it. If you don't have a bunker, you can get a lie board, which is very, standard in wherever people play, even at public golf courses. Just go into the golf shop and say, hey, can I try this lie board? You put a sticker on the bottom of your club and do the same drill. It's just a little half swing, and see where the mark is on the sticker. If it's on the back of the club, that wouldn't be very good for impact. Yeah. You want it more towards the leading edge where the shaft is leaning forward. So again, now we have sound, we have a visual with the sticker, and you don't have to think as much. I think if we could come up with drills, like you said, they're in motion, you can hit balls, or you don't have to think as much. I think that's really good.
And advance from here, I see it often. I mean, Vijay Singh was known for it. He'd find a fairway bunker somewhere. He'd do it at Augusta National all the time out of the bunkers on the left side of the range. You hit the line once, then you put a ball on the line, and then you hit balls out of the fairway bunker, aiming for clean contact. Because you talk about a tee or a line on ground, the ground can sort of disguise where you land a little. That sand will not at all.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I know. And you and I see a lot of tour players do it. And I see tons of teachers use this drill as well, but your listener may not see it. And it's also kind of fun. As I look through
this is fantastic stuff you're giving us, because you're touching all of the elements that influence ball flight. There's path, there's speed, now there's angle of attack you've just listed out of the sand. Give us one more, please.
One more, I think, again, I did this yesterday. I was thinking, what would be good for you? What would you guys like? Let's just say, I think the driver tip I just did for Golf Magazine, all I did was show that a lot of times at setup, the right forearm, if you're a right-handed golfer, the trail side, it's just higher than the left. And that leads to downward and really poor hits with the driver. So I just gave a simple tip, like just relax the right elbow, push it, move it so it's under the left forearm. And that would be what you would want at impact. And that tip got over 100,000 views. So I was thinking, okay, people like driver tips. So yesterday, and I know you and I have seen this before too, but to round out the driver swing, and baseball swings or swinging above the ground gives the proper geometry to a driver. But also what you could do, and I did it with several students yesterday, is get down on your knees, put a towel down.
Oh, goodness.
And you're not in perfect golf posture, but you're bent over just a little bit, and don't hit the ground with the driver. You're going to swing around and around. So if you hit the ground first, then you tilted too much, your head went backwards, and that's not very good. And again, it's in tandem with the arm and hand speed. The first drill I gave you, you want to swing past your body on more rounded arc, and that's the proper geometry for a driver. And then once you feel that a little bit, you can stand up, do the club head above the ground, lower it till you get to the ball, and that should help the overall arc of the driver, as long as your setup is well done.
Two things, and I want your commentary. You talked about hitting the ground early with that knee drill when you're on your knees. Yeah, that's the tilt and just also the collapsing of the arms some. But the slicer, the chopper down and left of a golf swing, especially with a driver, too steep an angle of attack. When you're on your knees, it's really hard to do that, and it does get you a sense for sort of where your arms need to exit. Your take on that?
100%. Totally agree. What it's really doing is keeping the club head or the center of the club, the sweet spot of the club, wherever that may be in that driver head, behind your body as you swing down. So there's no way, really, you can be steep with this drill unless you're doing it totally improperly where you won't hit the ground. But we want to keep that club head back behind in order to, shallow it out and hit from the inside. And this drill would certainly promote it. And again, you don't have to think too much once you get it.
And then one more thing with the arm alignment, the forearm alignment. Hogan in Modern Fundamentals talked about this a bunch, how he wanted the elbows to look to the hip, the outside to look to the hips and the inside to the sky. Don't you find this a lot, where your club golfer, they'll get very interested in where their feet are aligned, and that's where it ends. But the forearm and shoulder alignment is the most important thing.
Yeah, that's interesting you said that. One thing that you'll see all great players do, whether it's good juniors, good amateurs, the pros, they have a routine that they use to set up to the golf ball every time, which I do teach to my students. So to your point, it's walk in with your feet together, and it's step one is aim the club face first. And if you can aim the club face first, wherever your target is, then you can also check, to your point, your forearms and your shoulders. So you aim the club face first, then you take a step with your lead foot to the side, and if you want the ball in the middle, an equal step with your right foot to the side. So that's a 3-step process. So that's club face first, that's step one. Step two is left foot, step three is right foot. And there's a version of that for drivers. So with your listeners, you put your feet together. Sometimes people put their right foot in front of the left. You aim the club face first. Then you can check your forms, like what I just gave you a tip. You make sure your right elbow is under the left if you're a habitual slicer. Then you take a little step with your left foot and a big step with your right foot.
I love it.
So it's a variation of 3 steps, but that may help what you just said when you see that all the time. And it's 100%. I mean, a better player like you and I show my students all the time, I can aim left, right, ball could be forward, back, even further away from me, but I'm a good golfer. I know where the center of the golf club is, and I will get that ball on target. So for the average golfer to be very good at that routine and that setup will benefit them because they haven't had the wherewithal to practice and play and have the instruction that you and I have had.
And to that, ball position to me is always hugely important. I love with the driver you reference little step lead foot, big step trail foot to get the ball in the appropriate position. And then just to build on what you said about the elbows, I'll never forget Ernie Els for the longest time. He'd hold the club in the left hand going into address, and then the right arm, he just let it sort of dangle in a relaxed manner by his side. and then he'd approach the underside of the golf club with his trail hand, and he just nailed his posture every single time like that.
Yes, exactly. You can, if you'll see my tip and what you and I are talking about, it's the same thing. Just let your right hand float off, or your right arm, and you can even put it behind your back.
Yeah.
So you can really, tilt back and under, and then put your right hand onto the golf club in a more manner that we're talking about. Yeah, I see it all the time, but you're right.
Isn't it crazy? Because the slicer will aim left. They have to sort of, get the ball to the target. But you've got to fix it by going more right. And when you're doing what you're saying, the individual listening to this who tries it will suddenly go, dang, my wind-up gets bigger. I get my trailing side more behind me just because of how I've began.
You're exactly right. A lot of times you said with ball position, if the ball position is too far forward and you start to aim to the left and your shoulders start to aim to the left as well, then you do hinder your turn as well. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, no, it's a compounding series of events that unless you're really good at timing, you probably won't hit solid drive. So you're right. The setup's really important.
That's a good point. Dottie Pepper and I were chatting briefly after the show yesterday, and obviously she's a fantastic golfer. We all know this. And she just kept on saying, because she keeps the approach very simple, but she's like, if you're not set up correctly, you have to make a compensation. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. And as soon as you start adding those compensating maneuvers in, all of a sudden your golf swing is destined for breakdown.
Yep. And then I would also add to that, which Dottie would totally agree with, and you would too. Every day is different. And I'm dealing with average golfers most of the days. So they're at work, or they had a bad night's rest, or simply every day is different. And so that leads to just the nature of golf, which is it's an inconsistent game. But if you could set up to the ball with a routine that is the same every time, the likelihood of you hitting more solid shots, I would think, would be there. By the way, that 3-step process also gets you distance to the golf ball. So, there's a whole host of reasons why that's a good setup routine that I just gave you.
Fantastic. You're a star. I know you've got lessons waiting on the tee for you. Debbie, please share with the folks where they can find more stuff from you, social media, website, all that sort of deal.
I appreciate that. It's at Deborah Doniger, DEBORAH, Doniger, DONIGER. So that's my Instagram. I'm on Twitter at Debbie Doniger, Golf Magazine, Golf Digest, hopefully Sirius at some point. We'll be, I'll be working with them again, but that's where people can find me, and I'm happy to help. And I can't thank you enough, Mark. I love you, and I appreciate everything you do, and I appreciate your support. You know what? I love the fact that you are bringing truth to golfers around the world. That's the mission that I have, and that's the mission behind this podcast. So keep up the great work. Thanks, man. Have a great day. Good broadcast today. You too. This segment of the On the Mark podcast was brought to you by Synovus. Synovus, the bank of here. Hey, guys. Practicing with a purpose is crucial. Remember, it's one thing to go out there and hit golf balls, but it's another thing to go out there and make your work count. You and I both know that your time is valuable, and we also know that you want to shoot lower. So be careful of block random hitting golf balls, just putting and doing so on autopilot. I say this to my college kids all the time. Autopilot is dangerous. Be present. Be aware. Do something that's going to help you to learn what you're supposed to do, and drills are the way to go. So make sure, let's ensure that we do the right thing as a group. And if you do so, you're likely to take a step in the right direction. And if you share this with your friends, you can help them to take a step in the right direction. And if they do, you'll do, and there'll be the slipstream effect where you're trying to beat them, etc., etc. So make the practice count. Do the drills. If you have drills to share or an interesting idea, tweet us. We are at On The Mark Radio. Tweet me. I'm at Mark_Immelman. I want to hear from you, because remember, we are just golfers, people who love the game,
who are just getting together in one place to share and to help folks get better. Appreciate you all. If you play golf, be careful, have lots of fun, make lots of birdies. Take it easy.
This broadcast and all associated rights, including copyright, are owned exclusively by the PGA Tour and may not be used in whole or in part without the prior written permission of the PGA Tour.
Synovus is the bank of here. Here is where roots run deep and familiar faces welcome you home. Here's a place that keeps getting better with time, because every generation leaves it better than the way they found it. And here's where our bankers are helping turn ideas into business realities, because they understand what it means to be from here. It's where we smile when we see our customers and where they smile back. Synovus, the bank of here. Synovus, member FDIC, equal housing lender.